A far-right extremist gave the opening prayer in the House of Representatives in Congress this morning. Clearly a friend of the far-right Christian nationalist, MAGA extremist Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. This guy is Jack Hibbs, who has questionable views on the LGBTQ+ community.
Christians are completely fine with transgender people doing their transgenderism in their own home. But when they include our kids, that's what ignited the nation. Because transgenderism is a violation of the word and will of God. It's a violation of humanity. It's a violation of science. It's a violation, if you're an evolutionist, regarding evolution. It's a violation on every front. It is perverted, it is debased, it is godless, it is insanity, and it is the propping up of a severe mental illness. Transgenderism is actually a sexually perverted cult.
Jack Hibbs is another one of these people who is now focusing on LGBTQ+ people, in this case specifically transgender people, as the new target of hatred. The new victim of hatred are trans people. And just for the record, trans people are people just like pastors are people. He likes to give the impression that, Christians don't have a problem with these LGBTQ+ people, provided that they do their transgenderism in their own home, which, again, is against the law to discriminate against people for their gender or their race or religion, but also makes the point that he's trying to create a caveat to say, well, you can't criticize us. We're happy for trans people to do their thing, just not in public. Well, that's no different to the way that black people were treated until very recently and still are in some states. The point here is that segregation and discrimination are the main focus of this supposed Christian.
Lord, forgive us for allowing abortion. Lord, forgive us for sending people with antichrist worldviews to office like Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris. They don't want you, they don't honor you, and it breaks our hearts.
Clearly not a real Christian, some kind of evangelical far-right Christian nationalist, somebody who's trying to split society and claim that God chose you, but God did not make you. There's over 2 million trans people currently in the United States, and probably many more that didn't fill out the survey as a trans person because they were simply too scared or they hadn't come out yet. To understand transgenderism is to understand humanity and to understand how we are all the same, but we are all a little bit different. And unfortunately, religion is not something we are born with, like being trans. Religion is something that is either imposed upon us or something that we discover. And unfortunately, religion, in this case, an extreme form of Christianity, is being weaponized by pastors like Jack Hibbs, who ultimately hate the transgender community. They hate minorities. They hate women in many cases too. And that is presented in multiple different ways. But in this case, specifically about transgenderism, the point that he is making is he's trying to appeal to people saying do it in your own home without realizing, or without accepting, I should say, that transgenderism is normal. It has been around since time began. It's not a new thing. It's not something that people have suddenly discovered and decided to do. You are born transgender in the same way that you are born male or female or cisgender. To be born trans is where your brain, your physical appearance do not match. That is no fault of the individual. That is the fault of humanity. That is the way we are made. We are an imperfect species. We are an imperfect race. And yet, people like Jack Hibbs are claiming that if you are not white and Christian and cis, then you are in some way defective, which is so completely offensive.
It is the propping up of a severe severe mental illness and or the severe judgment of God.
And it's also in line with the thinking of Donald Trump. His view on anybody who is not white and cis, as he has explained many times when he talks about genetics and he talks about the great replacement theory. This is something, a conspiracy that has been created on the far-right Christian nationalist front that unfortunately has become a pox on our society. So, where do we go from here? Because we have Mike Johnson, who is inviting these people into the very heart of government, into the very heart of Congress, and their hatred and their bile that's aimed at minority groups is unfortunately being tolerated now and being accepted because they are being given a platform, platformed by the new Speaker of the House, who has his own agenda, doesn't believe that gay people should be gay, helps them to pray away the gay. I don't know how the US wound the clock back 50 or 60 or 70 years in this way. I mean, well, actually I do. I mean, Donald Trump allowed people to have these views and welcomed all fringe groups and, the kind of groups that normally would never be platformed, that are, in the shadows. He invited them all in because he wanted votes. He felt that, everybody was fair game. And isn't this the irony now, that the legacy of Trumpism lives on, even if he's not the president, and even if he's not the future president? The hate towards immigrants, to the LGBTQ plus community, and in many cases towards women, where women have lost the right to choose, that in itself sums up Trumpism and the legacy of Donald Trump. So you have a choice in November, obviously, whether to restore this kind of antiquated and xenophobic and racist view of the world back into office, or you can vote for freedom, true freedom. You can vote for inclusivity, diversity, and a progressive outlook, not just on the United States, but on the rest of the world. I'm Anthony Davis. You can hear me on the 5 Minute News podcast, also on Uncovered every Wednesday, and on the weekend show with MeidasTouch.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.